Oh, we got some good
like
stuff here.
like how a certain game like how certain game companies is still getting screwed over because somebody not only ripped off their ripped off their game, but did a fourth grader stunt in doing their homework, track evidence of the previous owner's name,
Look where.
the guys that screwing over hardware, definitely contenders for a hole of the week.
Eh, normally I would agree with you, but uh, the thing is that
I didn't say they earned it.
I don't have access to all the information, so I really don't want to. I don't want to like I don't know what's going on, and I don't know like all the I don't have access to all the information, so I don't want to. I don't know who's in the wrong or who's in the right as of yet. And I don't want to jump
It's just that
into it.
like so far one side is showing evidence of what's going on, and the other, well, they're just shooting names.
Here's the thing: the evidence that the developers are presenting is only part of the evidence. It's like if someone gave you a contract but only showed like a subsection of a subsection. So
I think
that's
that's because they're still in court about this.
yeah, exactly, which is why they shouldn't be sharing anything about it. So that's why I'm kind of like, this is kind of shady on both sides. Um, if the developer, because the way I look at
Shady on
it,
both sides.
the way I look at it is like this, okay? If this is a typical developer publisher relationship, the publisher put the money up for that game, which basically means that, you know, how fair or unfair, they own it. It's theirs. If they want to take that game and wipe their ass with it, they can because they put the money up for it to get made. And typically, with those types of contracts, it's yours. You put the money up, you can do whatever you want to with it. Um, you know, now I don't know the subsets of how that contract is written or anything like that. I do know that they're headquartered in Europe, which has much better labor laws um, than here in America.
In the U.S.
So it might be something different. But even over there, I mean, if you're a publisher and you basically, you know, pay for something to get made, um, like unless it's written a certain way in the contract, which we don't know what the contract says because they've only shown a small subsection of it that supports their argument, which is suspect because the reason it's suspect is because typically in a legal argument, if someone only shows you, it's like if someone, if it's like if you wrote a research paper and your source had a section that supported your supposition, but then had a mountain of evidence that went against your position, and you only showed the part that supported your position, and ignoring all this evidence that goes against it. Like that's still a really badly written argument, if you get what I'm saying. So since I don't have all the information and I don't
Yeah, I get what
know
you're saying.
what's going on, I'm not gonna
I'm
jump
just
on and
saying that
say
if
one
anything,
side's better than the other.
can it's just that if anything, I was waiting for the other side to talk about some of that stuff, and well,
Well, they're in court. I mean, there's like you don't want to like basically corporations and businesses don't want like typically the underdogs are the ones who want to drag public sentiment one way or the other with their arguments. It's the reason why Epic put out all that bullshit when they were suing Steam and now they're suing Apple. Like that's really shady. Because ultimately, like these companies aren't doing this shit unless it's something that's like for the public good, like some corporation was dumping toxic waste into a public reservoir, which was in turn going into the public water supply. Okay, that's something everyone needs to know about. But I mean, like,
I was gonna say that if anything, they're losing money doing this. So
I mean, they are, but I mean, that's what they
I'm just
wanted.
wondering what. That's the thing. If they're willing to lose money, I'm actually at least willing wonder why the heck are you doing this?
Well, I mean, that's the way it was.
Let's say you kind of cut off on me a little.
Um, no, I'm just saying. I mean, that's just the way it was. You know. Um, so, I mean, me personally, like I said, I don't have access to all the information. And the only information I do have is from a biased source. So until I get access, because one of the ways you can tell if something is worth believing or not is look at the source. Um, so if someone's making an argument and the only evidence to support their argument comes from a source that is amenable to that argument or is the progenitor of that argument is very suspect. So, me getting on board with this developer, um, and the only bit of information that we have is just from them and nobody else. It's kind of like that whole Ray Fisher thing, where Ray Fisher keeps on making all of these
I get where you're coming from. I'm just saying that so far I'm only hearing one side,
yeah.
and unless I hear the other side, and I'm going to say that there's more evidence to support one side so far.
Yeah, but the thing is that the evidence itself is suspect, is what I'm saying. Like it's not the amount. It basically what you're saying is that one side has presented evidence and the other side hasn't. But the thing is, the evidence that the developers has produced is very biased and suspect within and of itself. It's kind of like if someone said, "Is this person guilty of stealing?" and the only alibi that they can produce is their best friend saying they were with me the entire time, they didn't steal. I'm going to be very suspect of just the only person who can corroborate their evidence of them not stealing it is their best friend. It's a little suspect. I need something that's independently verified, and that's where basically I am with this developer and this publisher. Like right now at this point, it's a dispute between two businesses. Um, which, I mean, that happens. I mean, anyone who runs a business knows that at some point you're going to have a dispute between businesses. People aren't always going to get along, and there's always going to be some issue going on. That's business. Um, I'm not going to get involved with it because, like I said, at this point I don't have enough evidence to form a opinion on who's right and who's wrong. So I'm just gonna kind of
Way out.
yeah, I'm gonna wait it out until more information comes out, and then I will make then I'll form an opinion either way.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not gonna say they're nominees for a-hole of the week because, like I said, I don't know. Yeah, I mean there have been times when we've jumped the gun on information and it turns out to be bullshit. Like that guy who was like, "I'm never gonna use Google Stadia," because he accidentally locked himself out of his own Google account, and I'm like, that's just kind of stupid. I mean, I'm sorry that that's like saying I'm not gonna buy a.
Because it broke apart.
I'm not gonna buy a new car. I'm not gonna buy a car because I stubbed my toe on when I was looking at the car that I wanted to buy. I stubbed my toe on the wheel. Well, shit, that's not the car's fault. you know? Like, it's kind of like, I realize you're upset, but Jesus, that's a bridge too far, is what I'm saying. But that's my own personal opinion. I know everyone's gonna Everyone has their own opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, or should. I mean, I'm sure that there's someone with some type of congenital birth defect where they don't have an asshole. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you can go on YouTube and look up some poor lady who was born without a lower colon, so she has to have an ostomy bag. But all things being equal and normal, most people have assholes, and just like opinions, everyone should have one. But yeah, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay away from. I'm gonna stay out of it until more information comes forward. Now, once more information comes forward, I will be the first person to make a video about it, to put it on the podcast. I'll be like, yeah, those people did that shit. How dare they, those bastards?
At least if anything, I'm just saying that so far we are hearing evidence on one side. I'm just waiting to know what's with the other side.
Yeah, yeah, I'm waiting to. I'm waiting to. So we have a full array. Well, introduce yourself, and then we'll get down into it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Bullshit Busters Movie Podcast. I am Joy Moonstar, and if I got it right, we're talking about revivals or Netflix.
Yeah, that's the main topic, but we have some side topics to get through first. We already covered Pokemon and their bullshit, so we don't have to cover that. Instead, we're going to cover some general news that happened since last week, and then we'll keep it moving. So here we go. So the first one is, unsurprisingly, E3 2021, the live events seem to have been canceled. At this point, I would say, why are we still having E3? Like with the PlayStation experience and Microsoft equivalent to that, and Nintendo's Nintendo Directs. Do we really need, and even Devolver Digital's thing, do we need E3? It's obsolete at this point. It's like if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm bringing over. I'm bringing over a VHS player, and I'm gonna bring over like a trunk full of movies." And I'm like, "Nah, bruh, I got HBO Max and Netflix and a smart TV. Why are you bringing that shit over?" Now, I mean, I like physical media, but I mean, just practicality. It's easier and more practical just to use your Netflix and streaming and shit. But so the fact that E3 is all like, yeah, we're canceling the live events. It's like, why are you even having E3? Just cancel the shit. Just call it a day, and go do something else. Because like, there's no information that has come out in an E3 in the last 10 years that couldn't have been told via a direct
stream or by news.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing where it was like, oh man, we needed E3 for this. No, we didn't. We really didn't. And I know some people are going to be like, how could you say that? Well, it's true. I mean, I know some people are going to get mad, but the truth will set you free, as they say. So allow me to share. So basically, will when an online E3 replacement come together this year? So documents for an upcoming meeting of the LA Convention Center and Tourism Development Board lists E3 as a canceled live event in 2021. I'm not going to read all of that, but no shit. No shit, E3 has been canceled. No one, at this point, does anyone care about E3?
As I said, why am I not surprised?
E3 at this point is just a waste of space. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing at E3 there's nothing at E3 where I'm like, man, this really needed, like, this could have only been done at E3. Like, even though I enjoy a lot of the Nintendo Directs and the Nintendo Treehouse, Nintendo doesn't have to be at E3 to do the Nintendo Treehouse. They could literally rent because Seattle has a blazing AV audiovisual tech. There's blazing audiovisual and tech area there too. They could easily rent like a studio, clean it up, have the shit there in Redmond at their headquarters in Redmond, and just do it like that. You know, with digital and streaming and all that shit. Like they don't need to. They don't need to fucking go to E3. That's money they could have saved. You know.
I was about to say that it's probably for the ease of access, or basically trying to trying to burn somebody else's money, but that's just a guess there.
Whatever. I think the only people who really feel like E3 is a big deal are the media people who go to E3 and act like, oh well, we got access.
If anything, E3 is the media's Christmas in a sense. Like they get to report all this wonderful stuff that's coming out very soon, or coming out in the second half of the year, and
Yeah.
it's basically the the Christmas special come early.
Yeah, or they get to shit on it so that it gets lambasted um, over the internet. So I mean, I'm just saying that E3 is not what it's cracked up to be. And the people who used to get hyped up about it, like I was like, it's exciting. And then as I got older and more E3s went, E3 got more and more lackluster with each iteration. E3 just is not. It's especially in the age of digital streaming and people having their own websites. There's just no information that you really need E3 for to get.
That's the only reason would be if somebody actually puts the exclusive in there and well pulls people in.
Yeah, but even then, even if there is an exclusive showing at E3, it's eventually going to come out everywhere else. So what's the point, you know? It's like this is exclusive at E3. Okay, cool. And then the next day, you find out what it was shown at E3 exclusively at E3, and it's no longer exclusive. So it's like, eh. Like I think E3 is like the. No, go ahead.
I was gonna make this joke that it's like some of those exclusive toys where it's exclusive to one shop until the other shops get to buying it and well selling in their places.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that E3 is like the snake that ate its tail, Ouroboros, um, Ouroboros, yeah, Ouroboros, where basically E3 is like when E3 stopped being open to the public, where anybody could go and try out the new technology. When it became this exclusive club, then it started devouring itself because ultimately the ultimate goal of all this technology when it comes to video games is to get it into as many people's hands and as many people's houses and as many people's pockets as humanly possible. You want to reach the mass market. But when the information about your product is so concentrated and only certain people can look at it, certain people can play it, that's kind of against, well, it's against the general philosophy of your product. And here's the thing. I totally get the whole, you get to go to see something and it's your own special thing. Because I went to the Switch early viewing event in my area, and it was nice. But I mean, like in hindsight, none of the games they showed on for the Switch when it first came out in that event were what I would call the most impressive fucking games, or games where I was like, this showcases the power of this hardware perfectly. Like it was fucking Tetris, cross Puyo Puyo, fucking uh, what was it? What?
Tetris. There was Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda.
They didn't have Mario Odyssey at the event. At the event, they had like a whole bunch of third parties, but games that were going to be ported to everything else, like Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2, that new Super Street Fighter 2 that had Ultimate, that had Shin, that had Evil Kin. That was the big thing. Oh, we've got Evil Kin. Yeah. Like, my point is this, okay? Like, and the thing is, I've had the same thing happen when I went to go see movies before other people. When I would get when I would get to review films, and get to see them before anyone else. You get that type of, oh man, I'm a part of an exclusive club. But in the grand scheme of things, none of this shit is like you get access before anyone else. But I mean, that kind of peppers your impression of the shit because in hindsight, a lot of those movies I saw early weren't that good.
I was gonna say could have been worse.
Look, I saw Hellboy 2019 early access, reviewed it, steaming pile of dog shit.
I said it could have been worse, and I was hoping that I was wrong. That I was right. That I was right in knowing that you didn't see worse yet.
That was pretty bad.
Thank you
Hell,
for putting my hopes down.
Hellboy 2019 was a pretty bad movie. Like for people who saw the first two Hellboy films from Guillermo del Toro, and you were like, man, those films are bad. Let me tell you something. The first Hellboy by Guillermo del Toro is actually pretty good. The second film, not quite as good as the first one, but still pretty good. That reboot was a steaming pile of dog shit. I mean, it was bad. And I stand by that statement. Like, I don't want anyone saying, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." It was that bad.
I was hoping it wasn't that bad
It was.
because that me because I can only imagine how much torture you were under.
Um. Well, I mean, here's the thing. The film probably started life as a PG-13 film, and then 2/3 of the way through the film, apparently the studio realized, "Oh wait, this is a rated R film. We can have more violence." And then it gets even more violent, but the problem is that it's all CG and shitty, cheap CG at that. So it basically feels like you're watching a cartoon. Like, it's not like, oh man, this is horrific. It's like, this is a cartoon. This is essentially a bad cartoon. Um, so yeah, I would say that Hellboy 2019 is a terrible film. I got to review that film for my local newspaper and write a review for it. It's a steaming pile of shit. I did not write that in the review, but I used the polite version of steaming pile of shit. Um, it's pretty bad. Pretty
Something you would
bad.
never recommend.
Uh, I mean, if you want to watch a film that's laughingly bad, yeah. But if you want to watch a good, like, if you want to watch a good rated R film, if you want to watch a good rated R film, like comic book movie, I would watch Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie, or Sausage Party. That's a good one. Sausage Party. I mean, Sausage Party gets really graphic with the massive food orgy at the end of the film, but I mean that's the whole point of the film.
Yeah, yeah. I was having to remember how wild some of those metaphors were in Sausage Party.
I mean, but they weren't metaphors. Like literally, the main character is a sausage, and he wants to stick himself into between the buns of the female bun that's like right next to him in the same aisle. I mean, they're not metaphors for the food. That's what they want to do. Like that's the whole point. And I'm okay with that. Like here's the thing. Like Sausage Party was the start of like truly good rated R films. Because there was a period of time where if a film was shit and they knew it was shit, they would add some cursing and sex in it slap a rated R on it, but like the rated R was to save it from being the mediocre film it would be, because then adults would watch it because they're like, well, it's rated R, and I'm tired of watching films with kids. But I mean, Sausage Party was actually good. Like, there was an actual message in the film, um, and a massive food orgy at the end, which was awesome. What?
I was saying some twisted.
Not really. The message of the film is you shouldn't. Is that basically blindly adhering to religion and not critically thinking, or any type of blindly adhering to any ideology without thinking for yourself is bad. That's the whole point of the film. Like, the reason the foods are so fucked up is because they have this like, it's almost like an equation to religious ideology, where like they go to the great beyond and it's going to be this great thing, when it turns out they're just being eaten by people. Like, that's the entire point. And so they basically say,
I was gonna say, before or after being chopped slow.
yeah, I mean, it's truly horrific. It's truly horrific how they really play that off. He's like, oh no, they're just babies. They're baby carrots. I mean, it's like, when you really think about it, it's like, okay, if your food was sentient and alive, this would be fucking horrific. And they really show that. And I mean, really, like I said, Sausage Party, despite its animated styles and its jokey delivery, actually has a pretty good message in it. And it also isn't.
Yeah, I got the message. Now, if anything, it kind of shook me some ways because, well, if anything, former religious person.
Yeah. If you're not, I mean, it just depends on how you're raised and what your mentality is. Like me, I was forced to go to Catholic school, where they teach you all about critical thinking and all that type of shit. But they tried to indoctrinate me, and I was like, I'm not falling for this shit. But I've seen people who have fallen for it and who fell into that and then got out of it, and I'm like, okay, I totally get what they're going for here. Like I said, the message was pretty good. People questioning things, but then it had, like, it's not like they beat you over the head with the message, because you can go into Sausage Party and be like, oh, well, this is just an animated film with lots of sex and violence in it, and a massive orgy, a food orgy, which is kind of funny. Or you could, look beyond it for the, there's actually a message in this shit. But anyway, it was pretty good. But as I was saying, I've seen good films, I've seen bad films, and bad films have a certain, the bad films I've reviewed have a very certain flavor to them that lets you know this is a steaming pile of shit.
Guys, what's going on?
How's it going?
We were talking about E3 and how some things were going from good to bad.
Yeah.
In certain ways.
We said the only people who gave a fuck about E3 were the people who had early access to E3.
Yeah.
Like,
E3 is just a trade show. Like, when are people going to realize that?
well, the thing is that there's absolutely nothing at E3. There's no information to gamers or to businesses. There's nothing that E3 has released for the last 10 years that's been announced at E3 that couldn't have been announced through some other media channel.
Yeah.
So E3 is obsolete, and it basically, it's been on life support for the last decade, and people just kept on, they kept on putting in new machines to hook it up to keep it alive. But at a certain point, you gotta pull the plug. You gotta take the tube out of their mouth. You gotta unplug the machines and just say, well, sink or swim. This is no way for something that is healthy to live. Because if it was healthy, it wouldn't need any of this shit. All right. So, I'm wondering when they're just going to admit that E3 needs to go. Just period. Just let it go.
Sooner rather than later.
I mean, I feel sorry for the people who are going to lose their jobs, because there are businesses that made a lot of money around E3, like local businesses that made a lot of money. E3 was like their fire festival. You know, it was their, you know, it was a great, it made a lot of money for local businesses because, like, basically for me, like my business, you know, 4th of July, like June, July, there were years where I would make my yearly budget in 2 months in June and July.
Yeah.
Like all the money I made after June and July and before June and July, that was all gravy money. My operating budget for my businesses I could make in June and July. It was fucking awesome because everything above that was just gravy. New Year's gravy, Christmas gravy, Halloween gravy. You know, all those other months before June and July. That's all gravy months. And I mean, it's not like that now, but it was like that back in the day.
Thank you. Thank you, Beer 19.
Yeah, thanks a lot, COVID. Bastard. If COVID was a person, I'd run it over with my car. I don't think anyone would say anything either. They'd be like, ah, you ran over COVID-19. Yes, I did. I didn't see anything. That's what I thought. Anyway, speaking of people fucking up, I know that's a terrible segue, but it works. Google Stadia reports detailed development, tens of millions spent on AAA ports. Oh, this is bad.
But if anything, that's probably one of the few things I'd laugh my rear end off about.
Well, I'm going to read the article, and then you guys can give your thoughts. So basically, multiple reports have come out detailing Google Stadia's troubles that include everything from internal struggles on the development team to tens of millions of dollars spent on AAA games like Red Dead Redemption 2 to development roadblocks created by Google itself. Bloomberg reported that despite all the hype built up by Google for Stadia's reveal, gamers around the world were disappointed. This led to a lackluster launch, and Stadia is said to have missed its targets for sales of controllers and monthly active users by hundreds of thousands. Fuck. Not even games from some of the best publishers like Ubisoft and Take-Two Interactive Software could help turn the tide for Stadia. Those games didn't come cheap either, as sources from Bloomberg say it cost tens of millions of dollars to bring games like Red Dead Redemption 2 to the platform. Wired also shares some of the struggles at Stadia that ultimately led to the closure of Google Stadia's internal studios. Many of these issues stem from Google creating roadblocks for these employees who were trying to staff up to build AAA games. Google is known for its long and involved hiring process that can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. On top of that, Google had to change its hiring standards as it was looking to bring in game developers and hadn't traditionally hired for those positions. While there were around 150 employees impacted by the closure of Stadia's internal studios, two sources had said the goal was to bring in over 2,000 over 5 years. Above and beyond hiring concerns, sources discussed that Stadia's game development process felt stapled on. That's in quotes. The Stadia's game development process felt stapled on. Many of the developers felt that, quote, Google wasn't funding games to sell games, it was funding games to sell Stadia, end quote. Instead of giving the devs the freedom to truly create what they wish, they were told to, quote, design prototypes that showcase Stadia technology like Google's cloud computing capacity or state share, end quote. These issues were undoubtedly frustrating, but many felt secure in their positions at Google with high paychecks and what felt like little fear of being laid off, which can be a rampant problem at other studios. Then the COVID-19 pandemic began. Following the start...
I'm going to make a comment that hearing that line made me have a red flag already.
Oh no, Google's good money. If you work at Google, that is a damn good job. There's benefits. I mean, look, listen. If I worked at Google and I didn't own my own business,
not Google. I get what you're saying. I was just saying that hearing that kind of line on something that had no big release yet, and they kept not and they only just hired you after they released it. That's kind of a red flag.
Well, I mean, Stadia wasn't. I mean, didn't we say this before? Stadia did not feel like they had a plan on what they were going to put on Stadia. It felt like they worked on the technology first, and then the games came second.
Yes.
So there you go. What we suspected was the truth. Anyway, to continue with the article, following the start of the pandemic, Google implemented a hiring freeze for all the departments except a, quote, small number of strategic areas where users and businesses rely on Google for ongoing support and where our growth is critical to their success, end quote. Gaming was not one of these areas. If the company was okay putting us on a hiring freeze, they're also okay with damaging our ability to build content, says one source. The studio was not yet fully formed and ready to produce games. That put on the brakes and was a statement. We interpret it as a lack of commitment from Google to make content. No shit, Sherlock. In late January, Google's vice president of Stadia and GM Phil Harrison emailed employees and praised the platform's technology and said that Stadia Games and Entertainment had made great progress to building a diverse and talented team and establishing a strong lineup of Stadia exclusive games. 5 days later, Harrison gathered the employees and let them know the internal studios were shutting down. I mean, tell you something. Doesn't that motherfucker talk out of two sides of his face? Of his mouth?
Yeah. He seems to not, he seems to always, he seems to wreck whatever he's in charge of.
Yeah, he was in charge of Gaikai. That couldn't get off the ground. He was in charge of the PlayStation, of getting PlayStation Now on board. That couldn't get off the ground when he was in charge of it. Everywhere he goes, he just basically just fucks up. VGC reported a few of Stadia's possible canceled projects and proposals. One of them was allegedly an episodic horror game from Kojima Productions. That particular proposal was said to have been blocked by Stadia GM Phil Harrison last year. Another was said to be from Shenmue's Yu Suzuki. A sequel to Journey to the Savage Planet was also said to be in the works by the team formerly known as Typhoon, and a multiplayer action game codenamed Frontier was being developed and was led by former Splinter Cell and Assassin's Creed Syndicate producer Francois Pallon. A Google Stadia spokesperson responded to VGC's story saying that it does not have anything nor have anything with Kojima or Yu Suzuki. We talk to partners all the time in situations that don't result in a project or even a proposal. The spokesperson said of the alleged Kojima project, "This is very common. Speculating that two parties that speak regularly in the industry lease proposals or otherwise is inaccurate. Even though Stadia's internal studios have been closed, Google has reissued those that own Stadia that the platform will get 100 more games in 2021. Oh man, they think people are dumb as fuck. So now that I've read that article, what do you guys think about Stadia's
Stadia,
state?
you just keep giving us more. Oh boy. As if I didn't have enough hate to punch on Stadia. Oh boy.
Well, I mean,
There's more to it.
I mean, Google basically just did not know what the fuck they were doing, and I don't know why anyone's surprised that they managed to bungle it because, I mean, Stadia, I mean, Google will abandon some shit in a heartbeat. You know.
Google Plus.
No, they hung out with Hangouts for a while, but Google Music gone.
They destroyed Google Plus, one of my favorite social media sites.
Yeah, Google Plus was great. It's gone.
I love Google Plus.
Gone. So, you know, but that's Google for you, folks.
I think the only thing that so far hasn't been deleted is YouTube and well.
Yeah, but YouTube kind of sucks.
I was about to say, take YouTube how you will because
Yeah.
oh boy.
Like Google's one of the few companies that will take a superior service, cancel it, and then give you some shit that's worse. The only upside about YouTube Music versus Google Music is that the price is the same for both services. But YouTube Music is an inferior service to Google Music. Google Music was
Google
great.
Music, well, it was way better than YouTube Music. Like Google Music,
Advertisements for Google TV. So, oh boy.
yeah, Google Music. I love Google Music far more than Spotify, but they got rid of that. You can't have nice things.
Yeah, Google Music was great because you could upload your entire music library, download it anytime you wanted to, and listen to, like, if you listen to other people's radio stations, you could just listen to their music. It was like a library database of music you could listen to, download whenever you wanted to, and as long as you paid for it, you were fine.
Yeah, it was much more organized than YouTube Music too. Like you could see what it's hard to see what's new coming out.
Well, the problem, just for me, the problem that pisses me off with YouTube Music, is that a lot of, like, it's built off of the backbone of YouTube, which means there are entire albums, songs that are blocked depending on the region you're in. So if you're listening, like, you can listen to a list that has some songs or some albums you want to listen to, but because those albums are in another market or another region, you can't even listen to the shit. They're blocked in your region. And I'm like, what type of bullshit is this? What the fuck am I paying for if I can't listen to whatever the hell I want? So yeah, Google YouTube Music is trash. No, it's blocked based on the region. It has nothing to do with localization. For example, I like to listen to comedy albums. Now, I basically recently I did a impulse buy, and I basically have a ton of Red Fox. No, it has nothing to do with localization. Is about translating something so that it fits with the local language. No, it's not localization. It's region blocked.
Okay, it's just that I was saying that depending on the region that you're in, I was thinking that was who determines what's on there for each place, which kind of is going against the grain.
No, it's just region blocked. For example, like I said, I recently did an impulse buy and I got a whole bunch of Red Fox albums, and some of the rarer ones, like, you can find on YouTube. Now, here's the thing: you can listen to those albums on YouTube, no problem. You listen to those same albums on YouTube Music, and because of region blocking, you can't listen to like if there's like 8 albums in a playlist, you might be able to listen to 2 of them. YouTube Music sucks. That's what I'm saying. It's a steaming pile of dog shit. What were you gonna say about YouTube Music or versus Google Music, Kanoshi?
Oh, YouTube Music is just far more organized. Or not YouTube Music, Google Music is far more organized as it pertains to how music is laid out, and
oh yeah,
it's not. I feel like YouTube Music, the interface is kind of feels like a bit all over the place.
Yeah, it is. Like, literally, Google Music was better. Like, I don't know why they didn't just take YouTube Music and drop it and just go all in, or call it YouTube Music and just roll it into Google Music, which would have been better because Google Music was the superior service. But this is Google, and they love fucking up basic shit. Like, how do you fuck up a streaming server? How do you fuck up? Like, here's the thing: I could see if there were no examples of good cloud-based gaming services, but by this point in 2020, 2021, there are literally like 4 relatively good cloud-based gaming streaming services. Hell, there's cloud-based games on the Switch and the Wii U if you're in Japan. Okay, so the hardware is not an issue. All it is the connection is your only barrier to entry. I mean, there's there's xCloud with Microsoft. There's PS Now with PlayStation. There's GeForce Now with Nvidia. There's fucking Steam's cloud-based gaming, which has been a thing for the last 3 years. So there's no excuse for Google to have fucked up Stadia like they did. Like, zero. Other than it's Google and that's what they do. Next, we have some other news. Epic Games buys the Fall Guys studio Mediatonic. So, yeah. But the Epic Games Store is still a broken piece of shit. So now we know where their priorities are, don't we? Like, you still can't have a cart with multiple items, but they can buy other studios.
Yeah. Well, the interface does feel a little bit snappier. It does move at a higher frame rate. But, yeah, at the same time, wow, what are you doing, Google?
I don't know. Anyway, next topic. Richard Garriott, aka Lord British, went to the bottom of the ocean. He may be the king of the nerds. Because he went into space, and then he went to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, shit. Richard Garriott, this is the dude who owns a castle. He owns a castle. He built a castle. He's the king of the nerds. He's the king of the nerds.
What is he known for? Like, what did he make?
Ultima.
Ultima? Oh,
He
okay.
created Ultima, and his company, Origin Systems, before EA turned it into the piece of shit service that it is now. Basically, they helped bring up Nexon, which created the original Guild Wars, and he helped get Maxis on board. Jewel, wake up! And they created, helped get Maxis on board, which, you know, Maxis, as we all know, created, you know, The Sims. He didn't create The Sims. He just helped them. He helped them get them on board to where they could get the funding to create The Sims, not Sim City. The Sims.
Wake up. Yeah.
Jewel, wake up!
I'm still here.
You're snoring away. Anyway, our last topic might be of interest to you, Jewel. It's an ambitious open-world D&D adventure game is in the works. The project is in early development, but it's a D&D open-world adventure game, which seems like it would be fucking awesome if done properly.
Yeah, I actually agree there. So if anything, I have to wonder how ambitious these people are with the idea.
Of an open-world D&D adventure game? I mean, it just depends on how you execution.
I mean, is it like yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples of how to do some D&D campaigns, and some of them are, well, mixed bags. So, like the Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, that kind of stuff.
Well, they said it's going to be open world, so I would imagine it's going to be more like Skyrim, or not like Skyrim, but like the idea of you being a single adventurer in a D&D world, which is still going to be kind of tough because adventurers who adventure by themselves in a D&D world, especially D&D 5.0, like, really, it's not so much about level in 5.0, it's about how many enemies you're facing and how smartly you engage them. So you can, because like you can have four level 8 adventurers get destroyed by a group of level 2 to 3 to 4 goblins, because especially if they're ambushed.
It's stupid.
Well, because you just it's not so much about the levels of the enemies you're facing, it's how many, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I get you. So it would be kind of surprising if you got ambushed and then got stupidly owned.
Yeah, so I just imagine what type of story they're going to do, but I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, that's the end of our news stories. I guess we can get to the main story. What video game series? So here are the main topics. What? I guess we'll do the gaming topic first. What old series do you think needs a new entry, and how would you do it if you were in control of the said franchise? Who wants to go first?
Hmm. What was it? Trying to, since you said it so quickly.
Yeah, it's essentially what old series needs a new entry. So it's a series that hasn't had a new entry in years, maybe even decades. And how would you create that game, that new entry in the series, if you were in control of the franchise? So you can't just say, "Hey, we need a new Breath of Fire." How would you create a new Breath of Fire? Like, what interesting hook would you
Hmm.
use in order to get um, the game out or
This is
whatever?
probably this is probably going to be an obvious, but probably a never likely. So why not? If we could give the power of of rewinding, of rewinding, fast forwarding, and even, or how about even denedit, like flip, trying to flip the area, like trying to flip see things entirely to your advantage, or
And what game was this again?
or maybe
Sorry.
even edit your edit your foes into a different area where they can get killed.
And what game
And
was this
this
again?
Henshin a Go Go baby, Beautiful Joe 3. That would be
Hmm.
Beautiful Joe 3 if I had the chance.
I would be okay with that. I would totally be okay with a Beautiful Joe
I
3.
had to through Yeah, I had to pitch that in order to before I gave out the name because it would have been too obvious if I mean it would have been too obvious idea of power idea that powers would be used if I gave out the name already.
The only thing that I think that would be the only thing that I would add to a Beautiful Joe 3 sequel, Beautiful Joe 3, is that I would like to see Wonder Red as a playable character.
Oh, oh, you're trying to cross over with the Wonderful 101, aren't you?
Well, I mean, technically speaking, looking at that art style, they all exist in the same universe anyway.
True.
So I don't even think it's a crossover.
If anything, I I try to look for I try to look for that crossover in a sense, but I actually caught a crossover with Bayonetta
Eh,
with Wonderful 101.
just from the art style, I think that the Wonderful 101 would fit more in the
In
Beautiful Joe universe
Beautiful Joe's world,
because they both have that big head, weird superhero style thing going on. Plus, Capcom ain't doing shit with the franchise.
yeah, this is probably why I said I probably go for it since it probably isn't gonna happen.
I'd be cool with it. Kenoshi, do you have a game that you like are a fan of, and you just there hasn't been a new entry in years and years and years?
Let me. You can go on ahead.
You cut out. Could you repeat yourself?
Hold on. Give me a few seconds.
All right.
Oh, okay, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
The game I would do is probably a real Super Mario World successor, like a real 2D Mario World successor. So honestly don't think we've had that with the new Super Mario Brothers games.
No, no, those are basically like an alternate universe, Super Mario World, or no, Super Mario
But
Brothers One. So
so I think it would be essentially a yeah, I think I would what I'm trying to think what engine I would use. Probably something along the lines of maybe this new Super
That'd be cool. Like kind of like the encounters you had in Super Mario Brothers 3, but those would be the traps, and you had to fight your way out. And if you didn't, you'd lose a life or something. But if you did, you get like a bring back the item box of Super Mario Brothers 3, so you can like carry shit over. It's like, hey, I beat this trap. I got a cape feather.
Yeah.
Maybe a cool thing is that maybe you could take your items to a Toad house, but it would be Professor Toad, and he would basically take those items and you could combine them to create new weird ass power ups. So then it wouldn't be. So then you could do like interesting things, like, hey, I combined a fire flower with a boomerang brother suit. So now I have fire boomerangs. That definitely shake it up. You'd have a different game. Maybe add different colors of Yoshi, more colored Yoshis.
And that would allow you to have powers to go with those Yoshi.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, in the base Super Mario World, you had the red Yoshi
Okay,
that breathed
I just
fire.
realized this is turning out more like Kirby 64 in a sense.
Oh God, don't say that.
I don't know about that.
No, don't say that. That's an insult. Because Kirby 64 is
It's not
terrible.
that it's not that bad. And besides, it actually introduced combination powers.
Yeah, but those combination powers were
You haven't
stupid.
had um explode bomb and cutter.
Yeah, bomb and cutter, where you could throw the bomb stars, which was kind of cool. And then I think the one with fire and the sword, you create like a dual bladed lightsaber type thing. I mean,
Actually, that's lightning and sword.
yeah, whatever. But I mean, here's the thing. My problem with Kirby 64 is just that um, aside from the combinations, it really just did not really work too well. Um, in my humble opinion. But I get what you're saying. The combination abilities. The reason I say it would be cool to have, because the weakness of Super Mario World, the first Super Mario World, is that you only have 3 power ups. Technically 4, but I'm going with 3. Mushroom, Fire Flower, Cape Feather. That's it. Um, Technically the blimp, but that's only for like certain levels. Um, And I do think that, like, I'm not against having more power ups. I just want them to be more useful than they were in Super Mario Brothers 3, where there was only like 2 power ups you really needed, because the other ones
I
were
was gonna
useless.
say, and I think it's because of the fact that Super Mario World, you only had 2 big power ups that really mattered.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely needed the mushroom to turn Little Mario into Big Mario, but I'm not going to count that as a power up because you kind of needed that. And then you had your Cape Feather and your Fire Flower. The Fire Flower actually kind of useful against certain types of enemies, but against other ones, just a waste of space. The Cape Feather was great because the Cape Feather could take out everything. Charging Chuck, Cape Feather. They're shooting fireballs, Cape Feather. This monster is invisible, Cape Feather. That cape was insane. They need to bring. That's the one power we
Only
never
thing
got
that gets
back.
tough is those I was saying that the only thing that the cape couldn't pop would be those what was it? Oh yeah, those Mecha Koopas, as far as I know.
No, you could take out a Mecha Koopa with the cape.
As in you could KO get rid of them.
Yep.
Okay then, that cape feather was a OP.
The only enemy that the Cape Feather had no effect on were those giant wisps in certain levels. The giant wisps, plasma wisps, you couldn't take out. But aside from that, like normal enemies, like the only way you could kill those re-dead Koopas and those re-dead Goombas, those mummy Goombas, was with the Cape Feather. Fireballs did nothing. They were invincible. It's like I'm hitting them with everything I've got. It's doing absolutely nothing. But yeah, I agree.
Makes me glad that the ice flower exists now.
We definitely need a Super Mario Brothers, a real sequel, because Yoshi's Island is not a sequel to Super Mario World. That's a completely different game. And I'm tired of Tezuka Takashi trying to pretend like it is. Next, I guess it's my turn. Well, I was going to do a Capcom game. I was going to do Breath of Fire, but that's too easy. So this isn't...
You
What?
pulled that one out your own rear end.
Well, I love Breath of Fire, but Breath of Fire kind of started going downhill after Breath of Fire 3, because Breath of Fire 4 kind of sucks. And Breath of Fire 5 killed that franchise.
Oh, that's what I was aiming. That's what I was about to ask. I thought you were going to say Breath of Fire 5 killed it.
Yeah, Breath of Fire 5 killed it. Breath of Fire 4 was the start of the downhill, because basically, like, Breath of Fire 1 is a very paint-by-numbers RPG that has a reverse difficulty scale. The beginning of the game is really hard, and by the end of the game, you're steamrolling enemies. Like, there's no difficulty whatsoever. There's a special ability you get for one of your characters, like in the second act of the game, your thief character, where he can fuse with other characters into new forms that are insanely powerful. And once you get that ability, you can steamroll enemies up to the final dungeon where you get a mega form where all your characters can fuse together into a giant centaur dragon that can just one-shot everything with pumped up stats. And it's like, at that point, the final boss is a joke, is what I'm saying.
I was gonna make the joke that if they made the first part so hard, it must be like try to use a stress ball on it when you get to the final levels. Like, you're like, now all the stress that you had the first part on this final boss.
Not really. It's just the first Breath of Fire, it just has a reverse difficulty curve. Because normally, the proper difficulty curve is the game starts out easy, and then you ramp up difficulty up to a certain point, then it plateaus out, and you fight the final boss. That's a typical difficulty curve. Breath of Fire for the SNES is a reverse difficulty curve, because it starts out really hard. And then it just, like, as soon as you get your first party member, it gets easier with each new party member you get. By the end of the game, it's a joke. It's really, like, it's too easy at the end of the game.
The moment you get some power, you start to allow your frustrations on the hardness that hit you earlier.
Not really. It just, the game gets easier just because you have, like, okay, your first party member you get in Breath of Fire is Bo, and he has healing abilities. So now, when you're fighting enemies that normally, because the big thing in Breath of Fire 1 is that enemies have guts. Like, every boss that you fight in the game has guts. So you're looking at their health bar go down, and you're like, that was the final hit, they're done. They get up, and their health, they get like 33 to 50% of their health back. So you got to start fighting them again. But here's the thing: if you don't know this, you've used all your healing potions up to this point, and whenever you use your dragon transformation in the beginning of the game,
Corrupted, right?
no. In Breath of Fire 1, it uses up all your MP. Or no, it uses a large portion of your MP. So it's like your main character doesn't really get access to magic unless you do a lot to healing magic, unless you do a lot of grinding. So the beginning of Breath of Fire 1 is just really, really, like I said, it's a reverse difficulty curve. It's really hard in the beginning of the game, and then it gets way easier by the end. Like, every other RPG is really easy in the beginning, and then, like, it plateaus out at certain spots where it's hard, and then it gets easier again, and it's reverse designed. But for me, the game that I would do a new entry in is a Sega game, one of the best RPGs ever made by Sega. Um, and this game was the culmination of all of the RPG making experience of the team that made Phantasy Star 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they took all of that knowledge of making RPGs, and they made perhaps one of the best 6th gen RPGs ever made, Skies of Arcadia. And I would make a sequel. I would make a direct sequel. I would set it around. I would set it like a decade after the events of the first game. Same cast, along with some new characters, except for the characters who died at the end of Skies of Arcadia, because one of the characters in that game is an old man, and spoiler alert, he dies in the epilogue because he's an old man. You know.
How else do you die when you're aged out?
Yeah, he's an old man. It's like, he died. I'm like, he's old. But anyway, so what I would do is I would do a game set 10 years after the events of the first game. The big thing of the original Skies of Arcadia is that there was some type of event that happened in Arcadia where their world was some type of catastrophic event, and so the people took to the skies and these floating islands and shit. But on top of that, there also was another catastrophe after that where these super civilizations created these massive artificial kaiju type monsters to fight other nations, and there was a cataclysm, and these civilizations were destroyed or disappeared or whatever. I would basically do a game where those civilizations did the same thing that the Silver Moon civilization did in that game, which is, for those who played Skies of Arcadia, they basically left the planet and went to this artificial silver moon that turns out to be a gigantic kaiju beast. Their kaiju beast that they used to attack other people with. Almost destroyed the world one time with the same damn thing. It's actually so the whole thing would be the whole principle behind the game would be called the title of the game would be called Skies of Arcadia Armada, because the whole point of the game would be Vice and his little crew of friends. It's like just one ship can't take on all these ultra advanced people who've come back and want to reclaim their lost lands from all these interlopers, in their opinion. So essentially, you'll have to go between Arcadia and all these other areas where these people came from, where they've been for the last few hundred years, rebuilding their forces and building a life for themselves in preparation to invade the world they left, and getting ships and shit and building an armada and taking on other ships, because the ship-to-ship combat in Skies of Arcadia was really good. Not perfect, but really good, because there were only 2 special attacks you could use with the ships, and they both kind of sucked. I mean, no, the first one kind of sucked. The harpoon cannon kind of sucked. The moonstone cannon was pretty cool. So I would add more special weapons that you could equip to ships and fire. I would add more ship customization. The combat in the game, in Skies of Arcadia, your non-ship-to-ship combat, your party-to-monster combat actually was like Chrono Trigger, believe it or not. Except you had random battles. You didn't actually see your enemies unless they were legendary giant monster enemies and shit. So, but aside from that, that's the game I would bring back. Why? Because it's a fucking awesome game, and you know, if you're gonna bring back a game, why not bring back a good RPG that, in my opinion, is better than Final Fantasy 12. Or sorry, Final Fantasy 10.
I was gonna make the joke that I thought you were going to punch 13 again.
I mean, I mean, to be fair, playing a game of tic tac toe with a mentally challenged person is a better game than Final Fantasy 13. So that's not really a fair. That's not really a fair assessment.
I get
Um,
ya. I just thought that you like to punch 13 again.
I mean, everyone knows that Final Fantasy 13 is a bad game, so there's no need to.
To punch it again?
No, because everyone knows it's a bad game. Like, there's just no need. Oh, breaking news: Zynga has snapped up Torchlight 3 developer.
Wait, what?
Fuck. Yep. Another one bites the dust.
Who?
Zynga got the Torchlight 3 developers.
Oh god. And to the response that you were given, I think this emote comes up for it.
Another one bites the dust.
No, it's a Simpsons joke.
Yeah, well. I'm going to go with another one bites the dust. But with that being said, we are almost at the end of our cast. Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap things up and get to unpopular opinions? No? All right.
And this is probably weird that I'm actually an unpopular opinion with a game series that I kind of lost faith in, but it's feel a little faith left in me again thanks to what they've done.
All right.
Here it goes, and this is gonna be the weirdest coming out of me, especially since I usually don't rate graphics. People were ranting and raving about the Diamond Pro remakes, or ranting and raving all because of graphics, and I just have to say, you guys just don't want cute. And yes, I know I'm in a minority. And if anything, I already see people trying to use lines to make the graphics look better, but it honestly makes it look like they're trying to overcompensate.
I, d- I don't think. Okay, I think that I think I'm not gonna. I can't speak for everyone. I think that some of the people who are talking about graphics, I don't think they're arguing about the graphics. They're arguing. What makes some people angry is they're doing a remake of this game, and the remake is so fucking unambitious. With the power.
And you guys are crying about it now.
Well, like I said, I don't really give a shit because I mean the Pokemon companies they're lazy half-ass bastards, and they've been lazy half-ass bastards for the last uh, 6-7 years. So
at least since Gen 7.
So 6-7 years, yeah, because Gen 7 came out 6-7 years ago. So they've been lazy bastards for 6-7 years. So really, like for them to have this new console out, relatively new, with all of this power, all this shit they could do with it, and instead they're going to do a remake that looks like it would have been at home on the 3DS. It just smacks of being lazy. It's like, I mean, here's the thing, okay? I like if you're gonna do.
No, I'm gonna say that this was low hanging fruit.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a remake,
that they were making it.
I mean, if you're gonna do a remake, go balls to the wall. Do like say, okay, look, we have the Switch, we have this new hardware. We no longer are bound by the restrictions we had on the 3DS, where it had to fit a certain memory size and it had to be able to use this certain architecture. We can have a truly pseudo open world Pokemon game. We can, do this. We can change up this. No, just by the numbers, same shit, just slightly better graphics. They're so unambitious. That's my problem with the Pokemon Company. And the reason they're unambitious is because they have no competition whatsoever.
They have the number one. I was about to say they have the number one franchise in the entire.
I wouldn't go that far, but they definitely have one of the most popular franchises in the entire world.
I actually kick you for that one because seriously, you saw how much money they make, and that's
How much money you make is not.
mostly their merchandise.
How much money you make is not indicative of how popular something is. Because thing is that there's shit that makes a lot of money that doesn't necessarily make it popular.
Yeah, but I was saying that that Pokemon itself is the one franchise that makes more money than anything else. And I know that money doesn't equal power, but it's seriously hard to miss the fact that they get a lot of sales.
Like I said,
Out of their IP.
look, like I said, I'm not against. Yeah. So basically, they are. Right now, I'm looking at the 25 highest grossing media franchises in the world. The Pokemon Company is number one at 92.121 billion, and most of that is merchandise. So really, like I said, but the thing is, they have no competition. And because they have no competition, they're fucking lazy. They have no incentive to do anything better. All right. The second highest is Hello Kitty. Third highest, Winnie the Pooh. Fourth highest, Mickey Mouse. Fifth, Star Wars. Sixth, Anpan Man. I don't know who the fuck that is. Seventh, Disney Princesses. Mario's getting beat out by the Disney Princesses. But under Mario is Shonen Jump. Yeah, under him is Shonen Jump magazine, though. Under that is Harry Potter. Under that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Under that is Spider-Man, the comic book. Under that is Gundam. Under that is Batman. Under that is Dragon Ball Z. Under that is Barbie. Under that is Fist of the North Star. Under that is Cars. Under that is Toy Story. So technically speaking, a lot of this is fucking Disney because they own a lot of this shit.
Yeah, but you have to admit, seeing the number one IP be the one thing that is hardly challenged at all, and then seeing what they put on the screen, as much as I would say that you guys are harping on graphics and like this and saying that you don't want the remakes, it makes me wonder crying about the remakes again.
Like I said,
But on the other side, I will say this that Game Freak has got a remake. Did go for a remake, but on that note, why go simple when you could have gone with adding a lot more things than just what the generation that you're trying to do is.
that's my point. Just why be so fucking lazy? They don't challenge themselves, and because they don't challenge themselves, their games don't get better. And as long as these dumbasses continue to eat this shit up and don't hold them to a higher accountability, then you're just gonna keep on, buying the same mediocre shit over and over again. So that's their. If you don't hold people to a higher standard, then don't expect them to ever do better. And hold them accountable when they don't do better. But anyway, that's my. I guess that's your state. Kenoshi, do you have an unpopular opinion you want to share?
No, I don't have one this week.
All right.
I'm kind of not surprised. If anything, no, Red, he probably
As a matter of fact, I do have two unpopular opinions. My first unpopular opinion is this. Um, I think Ocarina of Time is overrated. Um, Not only is it overrated, but I don't even think it's the best 3D Legend of Zelda game. Okay, I will follow that up with Saturday, where we will celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda, because it's 35 years old. It's just as old as I am. Like, I'm one of those people who can legitimately say I grew up with the Legend of Zelda.
I was gonna make the joke that if anything, are you gonna get some? Are you gonna get some green colored cake?
No, I'm gonna drink a beer and then talk shit about it. I'm gonna roast it. So the the 35th anniversary Legend of Zelda roast will commence this Saturday, where I'm gonna talk shit about the Legend of Zelda, even though I do. It's one of my favorite franchises, but you know, like that's my love language. The more I
I was gonna say if you're gonna try to roast it, at least try to be careful of going for the Irish jokes to go with it.
I don't make Irish jokes with Legend of Zelda. But anyway, that's my love language.
March, that's why.
The more I talk about stuff, I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day. The more I talk shit about someone, the more I like them. If I'm really, really formal with someone and really, really supercilious, means I really don't like you. Because I'm going out of my way to be very respectful and formal. With that being said, that's my first unpopular opinion. My second,
Smells for Saturday, by the way.
my second unpopular opinion is about ironically, is about Star Wars as it is right now. Um,
Oh boy.
I'm about to say something. I actually think I actually think that bringing back George Lucas to help fix a lot of the problems with Star Wars as it is right now is a smart move. Because people forget that, you know, people like to talk a lot of shit about George Lucas, but if you didn't have George Lucas, you wouldn't have had A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi.
I was going to say you wouldn't have a galaxy far, far, far away.
You wouldn't have any of that
You
shit.
wouldn't have the. You wouldn't have the Skywalkers.
And the thing that people need to
You wouldn't have
understand,
Jedi.
the thing that people need to understand about it is this, okay? When I was a kid, I was born in 86, okay? There was no new Star Wars coming out in 86 because the series had ended in 83, okay? My introduction to Star Wars was it coming on the cable and me getting access to the VHSs when they finally came back around. And the Star Wars video games. So like Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi, Rogue Squadron. I played Pod Racer. I don't like Pod Racer. Fuck that game.
I was about to say the 64 version, isn't it?
No, I've played the arcade version and the 64 version. Pod Racer sucks either way. It's not a good game. PC version as well. Pod Racer sucks.
Yeah. If you're gonna do a racing game, don't do it like these.
As a matter of fact, the best part,
Please.
the fact that the Phantom Menace has like a 28 minute, no, not 20, like 13, 14, 15 minute scene of Anakin Skywalker pod racing. Fucking hate that scene in that movie. That brings that movie down. That and that fucking Gungan, Jar Jar Binks. Fuck that character. But anyway, that's enough about that. You wouldn't have, like, even the prequel trilogy does have some redeeming features. And I know people are gonna get mad. Like, how could you say that? Each of those movies, of the prequel trilogy movies, I can say has something cool and interesting in them. even though I don't like all of them on the whole, there's something good in all of them. In the first movie, a lot of those practical special effects are really good. Because the scene where you go to the Naboo Palace with Princess Amidala, at that point she's Princess Amidala, that was done with miniatures and practical special effects. It was not a CGI, and it looks great. It holds up. Also, that lightsaber duel between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of that film, between those two, master and apprentice, going up against Darth Maul, pretty fucking awesome lightsaber duel. You know what's amazing? That movie came out in '98, and Jar Jar and J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson and J.J. Abrams again made 3 movies with some of the sorriest, laziest, half-ass lightsaber duels we've ever seen. How the fuck do you have better lightsaber duels from 20 goddamn years ago than now? That's ridiculous. But that's neither here nor there. You know, that second movie, you finally got to see Yoda fight, and you realize how lucky R2-D2 was that Yoda was old and senile in Empire Strikes Back, because Yoda is an old man not to be fucked with. And the third movie, you find out just how much of a piece of shit Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, became. Like, I mean, like, you know, Star Wars has a very simplistic view of morality, but I mean, for a dude who goes around executing children and force chokes his pregnant wife, I kind of don't feel sorry for him getting burnt the fuck up on Mustafar. Kind of don't, you know. Kind of don't feel sorry for him. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I mean, George Lucas has a very simplistic morality view, but I mean, a dude kills little kids and does domestic violence on a pregnant woman. I'm kind of like, I don't feel sorry for you. You know, I really don't feel sorry for you. My bag of fucks are empty. So anyway, the fact that George Lucas might be coming back to head up the Lucas film division while he puts the house in order, I'm quite happy about that. Hopefully it'll be on better footing and people will run it who actually know what the fuck they're doing and give a fuck about the franchise. There's some things where you don't have to be a fan of something in order to make a good movie about it. Arguably some of the best Star Trek films ever made were made by Nicholas Meyer. And Nicholas Meyer was not a Star Trek fan, but he had a craftsmanship to his job that just kind of lent himself to making a good film about it. But as we can clearly see, a lot of the people making Star Wars films now, not fans of Star Wars, and you can tell. And that's not good. So yeah, my unpopular opinion is that bringing back George Lucas is not a bad thing. And they should have never gotten rid of him in the first place. Enough said. If they were smart, they should have had George. If Bob, what's his name? If Bob Iger was smart, he would have had George Lucas. He would have bought LucasArts or Lucasfilm, and he would have said, "Okay, we're going to give you a 5-year plan to train someone that you're going to groom someone as your apprentice to take your place." That would have been the smart move. Because Kathleen Kennedy has just done a fucking terrible job running that franchise. Fucking terrible. It's embarrassing. Like, literally, for the first time, there's Star Wars merchandise that's not selling. Think about that. I am a Star Wars fan who grew up when there were no new Star Wars movies coming out. Not a single one. Think about that. Anyway, those are my unpopular opinions. That's the end of the podcast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
I think I'm alright.
Kenoshi, anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up? All right.
So with that being said, that's the end of the podcast, I think.
Yep. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. The new website for the channel is currently being constructed, so look forward to that. Or should I say blog for the channel is currently being constructed, so look forward to that. That's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace, good night, and